Hello and welcome back to Planet Coaster, where we are working on the Legend of Korra, Air Temple Island some more. There's only a few episodes of this left. We have finished a lot in the past 10 episodes or so, and beyond the male dorm to the south, we are now working towards more of the north left side of the island. This is where Tenzin's family lives and also has a pretty impressive kind of courtyard in here that we'll get to a bit later in the episode. And initially spent a lot of time on this curved and sloping staircase. Now all of these structures so far, or at least most of the large important structures, have had this gently sloping wall kind of going down the sides, and this is pretty common for temples and or forts in Asia. So a lot of this is kind of a custom sloped wall, and you have to try and fit these together. So I spent a lot of time kind of struggling, trying to decide on how I want this all to kind of puzzle piece and tile set out. Now, you know, I can't really always 100% nail these things, so this gave me a lot of trouble in the long run. So we have the staircase going straight into the male dorm section, and then that is immediately met to this raised kind of platform and walkway area that is going to curve and wrap its way around in the initial kind of lower half of the courtyard. So it took some time to kind of work these tile sets together, and as you can see, as we bend these corners and make the staircase actually turn at like 15 degree angles, you're going to run into these gaps that you have to kind of sew together, and then also the roof that is not perfectly aligned. So there's a lot of deleting and placing things again multiple times, just so I can get a feel for this overall layout. And this is pretty common, at least for me. I don't really, pre-plan or pre-practice a lot of this stuff. So what you see is essentially my process to try and figure out these solutions in a little bit more of a sped up time, but it can be challenging. So definitely don't get discouraged if you guys are building something very large and it's complicated and it's going to take you a little while to get it right, because in the end, the payoff is 100% worth it. Now, this is as I said, a curved staircase, and it will eventually connect up to the main household of Tenzin. Tenzin, of course, being the pretty cool son of Aang, the original Last Airbender series, and he is kind of the head airbender at this point in time, and he is the teacher and headmaster of Air Temple Island itself, and it is also his home with his children that are learning the ways as well. So the staircase it's pretty impressive on how just tall this staircase is. It's already as tall as like a 3-story building, and it just wraps around this lower courtyard area that we'll be building here in a second as soon as I clean up some of these roof tiles, because when I was kind of Frankenstein putting these things together, this is kind of a quick way to lay out your tiles, and then you can easily just go back in and delete some of the overlapping areas. However, it is a little bit more time consuming than, say, getting it right the first time. So, warning for people who don't want to spend all this time essentially placing something just to remove it later on. In hindsight, probably should have done it a little bit different, but it's okay. It's going to suffice for us. The slope looks a little weird here at this point, and that's kind of normal. I'm going to go back in and readjust a lot of these angles to try and get a little bit more of a 15 degree kind of rotation all the way around. That's going to soften up the angle of attack on this thing and just make it look a little bit better and more clean, instead of having this kind of awkward bend there at the end. And also, widening out the circumference of the main circle is going to bring it in a little bit more in a line to the actual scale for the next building that's going to attach for it. But we'll cover that next building next episode. Right now, it's basically just laying down the foundation work so that we can lay out the plaza, which will dictate how big Tenzin's house is, which will also dictate how big an outbuilding to the right of the plaza is as well. Now it's not really a fountain area, it's more or less just a kind of rock water garden, you could say, over here. And it is an interesting shape. They have an island in the middle that we will eventually put a few trees, or one tree, but it's made out of multiple trees just to get the look right. But it does start in this little reservoir of water over here in the middle of the previous plaza we have been working on. And to get this ring, all you do is simply make a partial circle and rotate it around the central location there. And then you can go in, manually place a lot of these tiles to kind of seal it up and make it look flush to the actual plaza that it's built in. We also had to do a lot of custom rock work this episode because there are areas here along the small stream-like area, and it is going to showcase a lot more of these vertical rock elements that we have near the temple itself. And these things just take a little bit of time to throw together because you want to have a little bit of variety with them. You don't want everything to look exactly the same, and you want some height variety. You want some object variety with these, maybe some color variety, and that way everything just kind of breaks apart and becomes their own unique structure here. And we'll go in and save these as blueprints for later, because saving them as a blueprint will make it a little bit easier for us to actually go in and place them again and again, because we're going to place a decent amount of these in different rotations just to make it look a little bit interesting. In the center of the main kind of fountain-esque area in the plaza, there is a tall single spire of rock, and that's just kind of a decoration piece, and it does look pretty freaking cool in there. And to get the water, you know, with Planet Coaster, because it's actually not a 3D asset, it is more of a plane with some minor animations on there just to make it look like water. You know, we just dug underneath the roadways we've been laying and just covered up where the water actually ends, and we just make it look like the ending of this pool is actually containing the water. It's actually not. It's going out a good ways underneath the concrete itself at this point. But yeah, we're going to be building up these rock spires along the edge, different variations of them, and then this is going to line the stream up over towards a bridge section coming up there. And we'll also have to build some custom rock work along the edge of the plaza itself, just so the two items kind of blend together a little bit easier and make it look, hopefully, pretty cool from afar. You don't want to see those really hard lines of the plaza bumping up against such a naturalistic kind of element here. We'll also throw in some greenery here, also to break up just the overall brown color of this. Some smaller trees, and then just some brushes to make sure the rocks remain the key element. And then the bank of the stream itself is going to be made up of natural rock face here, and then the outline of the pool at the end is just going to naturally kind of transition into that area, and then it will pick itself back up here later along the pool itself, more into the large pool, kind of making up the central new plaza that we're going to call it over here. Now the small island is going to have an interesting tree. We're going to use two of them, and that way we can have kind of a split-based tree here, one going vertical and one hanging out kind of towards the entryway where all the stream and water is going to, and also the rock garden itself. we'll build up some stone as a good foundation for this landmass, because, you know, having just a ball of dirt doesn't really make a whole lot of sense here. And going in with a different colored stone than, say, the rock garden itself will hopefully contrast it and make it look on its own out here in the water. And with the reflections and everything, this whole area is going to look really cool. And once we actually get the house built, that'll reflect in the water as well. We will get the concrete kind of trim along here, a little bit of shrubbery, and we just want to darken up the ground just to make it look like mulch and dirt itself. And this is basically a self-contained little island at this point. Here, we're going to make a simple arched bridge going across the stream itself. It took me 2 tries. I haven't really built a bridge in Planet Coaster since the Pokemon Go park. So here, just trying to do about half of it, copying it, rotating it over, seeing if that arch ended up looking right. Definitely didn't. So I went with more of a gradual, slower slope that then tapers off near the bottom. When you flip this around, it might not perfectly align to the other half, so you just have to kind of pull it to the left or right to make sure you get a nice mirror effect. We're going to add some supporting side wooden beams here, just so that it is a little bit more detailed out and the wooden planks are actually set onto something rather than just floating in air at this point. Upper hand railing and some vertical poles just to make sure that isn't floating as well. And we can color this all white and that very almost whitish yellow as well, just so that there's a little bit of a two-tone in it. If everything was 100% white, it just might look a little too plain. Some smaller wooden support struts at the bottom, just so the bridge looks a little bit more stable and grounded into the environment itself. And at this point, wanted to mess with some baubles possibly to decorate the top of these railings. Didn't really find a piece that fit or was small enough to do what I wanted to do, so just, you know, left it plain for now. We might end up coming back and touching upon that later. At this point, we go ahead and fill in a lot of the rough concrete shape around the main pool itself, and then go back in with this smooth kind of stone trim and just trim it up real nice. Now, I could have been using a little bit more copy and paste here. However, some of these angles were not quite uniform and not quite evenly spaced out, so I felt like it might have been a little bit quicker for me to just simply place each individual block one at a time here. And this little detail work, you know, it's time consuming, but it's not really that hard. It's more or less just looking at your reference images and just making sure the areas are at least in the correct position on where they should be. We'll also build up some of the pool wall using some stone elements here, and this is also going to bring in a little bit more greenery along the water's edge and make that look pretty nice and a little bit more separate from the plaza. Some naturalistic elements do look nice mixed in to more man-made elements, and we're going to do this on the other side as well. So that's it for today's speed build episode. We're going to go ahead and take a look at everything in real time, and you guys can tell me what you think. Alright, so here we are taking a look at the area that I mainly focused on for now. A lot of this is going to change because I'm thinking about changing the overall shape of this large kind of body of water here. I don't think I captured it quite correctly. I think this edge needs to be over here a little bit more, and then this curve needs to be a little bit more exaggerated to make that little flowy detail work a little bit more in our favor. But for now, I think this is a decent start to detailing out this plaza as a whole. You know, all the rocks kind of coming together here and just kind of exposing the dirt and terrain inside the concrete is going to look pretty cool once this is all put together and finished. Also, the main foundation of Tenzin's home is placed here at this point. I'm still trying to decide on how wide This needs to go. It's definitely one of the larger structures on the island itself, and the curved staircase with way too many parts for its own good, starting to add in some of that handrail detail that we have throughout the other areas of the temple. I want to go in and kind of hand stitch together the roof lines here just to make that work a little bit better. And I don't really want to do that on camera. I think it would just take a little too long, and I think you guys have seen enough of me kind of messing about with these tile pieces. Added some greenery kind of in this dead space here to kind of bump up against the retaining walls of this upper walkway and also the main building up to the north. And as these greenery spaces get added, you can see that it's just framing the rest of the buildings very nicely, and I just like the pop of color that you can get between the greens and the yellow greens. So the different tree types from these kind of vertical pine trees, and you know, it's just to the white and blue texture that we see so often in this build itself. We also got this nice pool out here. And the reflection of everything is probably one of my favorite things to look at in Planet Coaster. Now, my graphics is turned down just so I can get about 10 more FPS than, say, if I was on high or ultra. And, you know, the reflections do get affected by that, but it's not too bad. Plenty of detail with greenery, dirt work and texturing in here just to make it look a little less flat. Also added some smaller rocks and pebbles there. We get the nice kind of white bridge, added some 4 lanterns on here. Eventually, we will get to lighting this whole area and the rest of the build itself. I find lighting to be kind of the last thing I ever do, just so that I can worry about getting the larger shapes down. But I do want to make custom lanterns to fit the theme and to just make everything feel a little bit more detailed. We have a lot of empty space to fill, and I want to add as much as possible eventually, but that'll be kind of the final detailing pass once we get there. So next episode, what I want to do is either I can work on this building here to the left. This is Tenzin's home. There's also a building here kind of in the plaza. It'll also help fill in this dead space. I don't quite know what this one is. And then there's also another low wall, very similar to the wall over here in the male dormitory area. And that kind of divides this section out. At that point, we'll go up a little bit more to the north, build a large kind of meditation gazebo out there. And I think at that point, the whole upper plateau will be done. We'll have all the trees in, we'll have all the buildings in there. We'll then start working our way down the front of the mountain, getting all these pathways laid out, some bridges made. There's also another outbuilding out here and the dock that goes out here. And for the finale, essentially, it will be sculpting, adding details, and things like that. So if I had to guess, we probably have about 5 more episodes left of this series, and then we are done with Air Temple Island. Once this series is complete, you guys will get to see a new build underway. I want to start making a park again. I'm holding off until the next update on Planet Coaster, so hopefully here in the next couple weeks we can get that going and finish up this one. Also, I am out of town this weekend, so you guys will experience a little bit of an interruption on our daily upload schedule and things like that. So, if you guys are enjoying Planet Coaster, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more creative goodness such as this. Go ahead and hit that like button. Leave a comment down below on what you guys think, and possibly maybe some ideas for themes for theme parks. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.